Hi, my name is Amy. Thank you very much for watching, and let's make some bad financial decisions together. This is for entertainment purposes only, so if you're entertained, please like and subscribe. Really appreciate that. So let's talk about the most romantic topic on the most romantic day of the year, NAV erosion. So the thing about NAV erosion is it has such a bad connotation to it. I always feel very defensive because, no, I don't think that the fund is going to zero or that it's doing anything bad. It's just that the price dropped because of expected things, and it's hard to defend because NAV erosion just sounds so awful. So let's get into what it is and when it's concerning. So NAV erosion happened. Well, NAV is net asset value. It's basically just the price of this ETF or stock. So the NAV erodes, it goes down when there's distributions or dividends, which is expected because that money that they give you doesn't come from the air, it comes from the price of the stock. And then for cover call ETFs, we have the price of maintaining options, which is establishing the synthetics, opening up different contracts on it, and when you lose your bet, you have to pay out and stuff like that. So it's not cheap to run a cover call synthetic strategy. So there will be some erosion because of that. The underlying going down, limited NAV appreciation. So basically when times are good, it's capped. So it doesn't help when the stock goes down again. It recovers more slowly after a dip. And then return of capital. So when is this okay and what to look out for? When is this alarming? So for distributions, the way that YieldMax usually works, or the way it's been explained to me, is that they are just paying you the premium that they got, which is nice. I own a fractional part of a covered call, and I just get a fractional part of whatever premium they got from their play, and that's fine. So how I usually measure it is if I had bought on the declaration date during the next period before the next distribution is paid out, could I have at any point in that period have sold my stock or ETF and made a profit or broke even? If I have, then the NAV recovered, and that's fine. And even sometimes the entire market has gone down 5 or 10%. I can't expect a single stock that's in the market to do well and recover when the entire market has been suppressed. But just as a general rule, during the good times, does the NAV recover within that pay period? Because if it can't, then there's something wrong with the fund because they're paying more than it can recover. And then I really am losing money, and you have to look at total returns, and it's a big mess. So I'd rather just be able to pay on a declaration date, sell at some point before the next distribution, and call it even. So, and then the underlying, and this is why when you're doing your own options, the first rule is only invest in something that you won't be sad to own, because it's just really hard, because YieldMax is a bunch of single stock ETFs, so if it loses its momentum, or it's like Moderna, it just has a bunch of bad news, you're going to lose a lot of NAV, and that's a long-term issue. And so the next thing is return of capital, and a lot of the concern with the return of capital and the distributions, well, first of all, return of capital, it's basically just they give your money back to you, and it's an accounting trick, so it makes it more tax efficient. So until you've reached 100% of your return of capital, you don't have to pay income taxes on it because it's your money. So, for example, if the fund earned 30 cents per share through the premiums of their cover calls, and they returned 20 cents of that as return of capital, that's not concerning because they've made 30 cents of profit. They gave you 20 cents of return of capital. What's concerning is if they only made like 10 cents in their premiums from their cover calls as a profit, and then they give you 20 cents of return of capital. And so if they give you more money than they've earned through their cover call strategy, it is definitely not sustainable and probably not something that you should be involved with, because that's a dividend trap. So I'm not that concerned about return of capital because it is an accounting trick. It does make it more capital, like efficient, if you have it in a taxable account. So as long as the fund is actually making money, the price of the ETF is appreciating, then return of capital is not something that I'm concerned about when I see it in a prospectus somewhere. And then appreciation and that being capped is really concerning. But I also know that in October last year, YieldMax did change their prospectus so that they can now do call spreads, which are interesting. So the thing about, like, if you're too aggressive and you're in the cover calls, and that increases the yield, but whenever that stock goes for a run, you hit the ceiling and then you don't appreciate in price anymore. And then since you didn't get that appreciation when it went up and it was slower to recover, the next time it goes down, because there's no downside protection, you're still just losing your NAV. So this can be a long-term problem if it's a slow recovering fund and the implied volatility is high and you just are too aggressive with the strikes that you do. So that's why everyone has been watching Retire on Dividends and other channels like that, just to see, like, are their trades too aggressive and are we capped, and like what is happening long term. So the last thing I'd like to talk about is, like, because with Misty they've changed it, the options chain, to be weekly. So what you could do, and I've mentioned this in another video, when you get your distribution, if it's enough to sell a put, which means that you are paid upfront and it's like putting your stock in layaway. So you're like, I'm going to buy 100 of these shares and this is the price I want to buy them at. But I'm going to sell this put. I'm going to get paid to do that. And then if it goes below that price, I have to pay and obtain the shares for that price. So this seems like a good option. You could do it 3 times, and then on that week where there's a distribution, you can buy on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday and just, buy in, get the shares, get your distribution, and then sell another put to buy more shares of Misty. And so this could help you with your NAV with Misty, because the more you do cover calls and sell puts, and the more income you're generating on top of the income that you're generating from the dividends of Misty, you are recovering money. And so you can buy more shares and you have more buying power. And this and every other option strategy works until it doesn't work. And then when it doesn't work, you have to pay actual money and you lose the money and you don't actually own the shares of the ETF or whatever. So it can cost you a lot of real money, and then you just have nothing to show for it when you do your own options, which is why a lot of people want to do high income ETFs, because if the entire market goes down 50%, I would still own 100 shares of Misty. They would still be doing cover calls on Misty, and I would still be getting money, and I would just not sell my shares until I could make a profit. So there are issues with doing your own options, because like no one ever says when you do options there is NAV erosion, because determining your profit and loss with options is a little more complicated. And I feel like there's more victim blaming with options, where it's like, well, you shouldn't have put your strike price so close or whatever. But there's always the danger of early assignment too. So if you have your cover call open and it is distribution week, someone could call your, like, you can get an early assignment and you just don't get the distribution. And for Misty, that's silly. So just like be careful with doing your own options. And like anytime you're making money extra on top of these, yes, it would help with combating the erosion, but it also adds a layer of risk. And so it's up to you to determine if like that's a risk that you want to take on. And like there's really nothing wrong with observing and using totalrealreturns.com and YieldMight and all the other resources to just say like, well, this ETF has shown that over time the price of the stock is either staying pretty much the same or going up. Then you don't have to worry about NAV erosion, because they figured out how to recover between distributions. So usually that means you're just getting paid less per share, like price that you've paid per share. But in the long term, if you go for the things that have the highest total return, then you'll eventually be getting more money from the ones that appreciate more anyway. So hopefully that clears up NAV erosion for you. And let me know if you have any more questions about this, because I generally don't like touching on this topic. So there's that. So yeah, if you go to the site that I've made, it's YieldMight. The premise of this is based off of the last distribution. If I have an investment amount, like I want to put in $600 right now, how much would I have gotten if I had bought by the declaration date from the latest distribution? So for LFGY, if I put in $600, I would have gotten $7.05. That's equivalent to $30.55 monthly, or $366 annually. And you can keep going down and compare it to the different groups of these are paying every 4 weeks, and then the monthly. And if you go into the details, you can change the stock price and the dividend amount and the starting amount. And I just added the chart here this week. And now you can click out without using the X. And if you're only interested in some funds like NEOS, you can click on that and it'll filter. And also if you're only interested in like Bitcoin, it'll also filter. So it's not the only tool that you should use, but it is a tool to quickly compare, for the money that you're investing, how much money would you get in distributions. And finally, For financial philharmonics, we have Short-Term Pain, which is a Celtic trance song, which is very short. I wish that Suno would have played ball with me in extending it because it's really catchy. And then Money Glitch is a dark pop song about how there is no money glitch and that you should just invest like a regular person. And then Orange Pill is just sometimes I think I might have too much exposure to crypto, and then no, and absolutely not. There's no limit to crypto. It's basically a comedy hip hop. So hopefully you all have a good Valentine's Day, and let me know what your plans are. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.